Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome to another edition of Remixing Politics and Culture with me, your host, Pam. I am a public relations and marketing professional with a passion for social justice, voter advocacy, and culture. And tonight, we're going to mix it up a bit. We're going to mix up the politics with the culture, and that culture being the Divine Nine organizations. Um, this is the most consequential election of our time coming up. And tonight we have a few members of the Divine Nine, which the Divine Nine is nine organizations that are historically Black fraternities and sororities that are international in scope and reach. Um, all of the members that I have here on the show tonight are members of the D9 organizations, including yours truly. And we're going to discuss in the first half of this show the mission of the collaboration of all of the Divine Nines coming together to work on the election with voter education, voter registration, and getting our people out to the polls to vote. Now, after that discussion, we will segue into policy concerns and issues that reflect our own personal opinions and not that of any organization. Okay, so all right, we've got hello Kadira, hello Soror Kadira Smith. Okay, so let's get started. Up first, we have Barry Walston. Barry is a lifelong activist who lives by the motto, I am my brother's keeper. He is a retired social worker, human services professional from New York State Department of Health AIDS Institute as a program contract manager within the Division of HIV Prevention. The majority of Barry's professional career has been working in human services, supporting populations at risk. Barry serves on several boards, both here in North Carolina and in Albany, New York. He is a proud member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Welcome, Barry, to the show. And thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show at the 9th hour. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Soror.
Okay. Hello, Soror Loretta Thomas Walker. All right. Next up, I have Rodney Skurlock. Rodney is a native of Durham, North Carolina. He is an innovative software engineering professional for NetApp Corporation. Rodney currently serves as the co-chair of the A Voteless People is a Hopeless People Political Action Committee for the Beta Theta Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Welcome, Rodney, to the show.
What up, y'all? I'm from the South. We're going to keep it real.
Hey, this is a warm, friendly conversation. And we'll have people in the chat joining in. And last but certainly not least is Mayor Barbara Foushee. By day, Foushee is a senior technologist in molecular oncology laboratory in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. Also by day and by night, she is the history-making woman who became the first Black female mayor of the town of Carrboro, North Carolina. She is a staunch community activist and servant leader and proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Welcome back to the show, Soror Barbara Foushee.
Thank you, Soror. Thank you, Soror. I'm happy to be here with all of you. And just looking forward to a rousing discussion.
All right. Yeah. And hello, Sans, Alicia.
Hey, one quick question. Barry, are you from Albany?
I was born and raised in Hillsborough, North Carolina, but spent 45 years. Yes.
Oh, right, wow. Hillsborough.
All right. I went to RPI up in Troy. There you go, right?
Yes. Like all the alphas.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. All right. So let's get into it, guys. Barry, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts when you first heard about the D9 coming together in this major way to educate folks on voting and getting them registered and the whole ball of wax? What did you think? What did you think about that?
That we were honoring our founders because our founders suffered, died, so that we could be here today to talk about what was so important to create space to make sure that we were educating our community, being in service for our community. And so this is what I want to say, that this is not not unusual for our community and our family to step up. We've had centuries of leaders who have made the statement that we have to be self-determined. We have to give back to our community, that our family matters, that our rights matter. I'll lift up our brother John Lewis, who suffered, and died in this space for us to be sitting, for me to be sitting here today, as well as those who are listening and on the screen. So I thought, we've normalized the fact that the D9, that our founders were purposeful and intentional about why they created our organizations. And that is to pour back into our community, and again, to lift up those tenets that each one of us live by.
Okay. All right. Rodney, this effort by the D9 Council of Presidents is a nonpartisan coordinated effort to ensure strong voter turnout. How was your chapter meeting the challenge?
Oh, Lord. So we don't well, I try not to reinvent the wheel. So we've partnered with You Can Vote, which is a North Carolina organization. We partnered with Black Voters Matter Fund, which we all know who they are, to help us mobilize our team to get out and do what we need to do. As a matter of fact, I was in Carrboro last Sunday canvassing. We were in Alamance County yesterday canvassing, and I was down here in Durham canvassing, passing out information on times to vote, where to vote, where your voting places are for the day of the vote, where your early voting places are. And it's different, right, for each county. So we use the funds that we're getting from our partner organizations to print materials, to pay for food, to get to where we need to go. And that's how this chapter is stepping up. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give a shout out. We're having a party at the polls on the 20th at North Carolina Central University. Everybody come on out. We're sharing the parking lot with the Kappas. That's how the D9 is working together. We are having a tailgate party at the polls on the 20th at North Carolina Central University. Come on out.
Souls to the polls on that date. I'll put that flyer's coming up as part of this discussion.
Exactly. And your souls to the poll ends up at our party at the polls.
Of course.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Right. So we're gonna have a good time. Right? We got friends out there. We're gonna have a good time. We have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. We might as well have a good time. Hey, Ron. That's my frat Ron Charles. Okay.
So Pam, can I just add to what Brother Rodney was talking about when he said he came? I live in Alamance County. I live in Mebane.
Okay.
And
we were in Mebane.
This is in the barbershop. Turn Alamance blue. And so, to your point, all these efforts are being made and being very practical for melanated communities, right? So we're getting the leaflets out there, having the conversations, and be in real time. And it's really important. And I go so far to give it to the other people to make sure that they're informed. But some of that requires us to be courageous, right? Because it's good for us to talking to all of us who kind of know the information and feel comfortable with it. It's a little bit more difficult when you see one of the other signs and you know what it means and you know what your community looks like. And so I just thank you, Brother Rodney. But we are also doing. We are also.
I know. We all be doing it.
We're
in
doing it.
Alamance
We're
County.
coming together. And Kadir Smith says it's in the grocery store, Food Lion, and Mebane as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, all right. So, Soror, Mayor Fushi, you are the
Yes, ma'am.
elected official among us. What do you know as an elected official are the gaps in information among Black and Brown people when it comes to voting?
I appreciate the question because I sit in this every day as the mayor of the town of Carrboro, having been on the town council since 2017. And, you know, continuing to try to get folks to realize that everyone doesn't receive information the same way. You genuinely have to meet people where they are in a way that will engage them. And so I know, particularly with the town of Carrboro, we, you know, and I continue to push for inclusive community engagement, where you're bringing voices and faces to the table that are not normally seen, or you engage folks that are historically marginalized and or underserved. And for myself, this is what I do every day, and you know, the election cycle. I'm just folding what I'm doing already into the election cycle, and as an elected official and a trusted voice in the community, I really use that platform to help people, provide resources, make sure that folks have information. I have tons of voting information at my house. I take it to church. I take it wherever. And I have folks calling me, you know, and they're just like, hey, we need some voting information. Can you help us figure out about these candidates, you know? And so that's what I'm here for. I'm not in this position for me. I'm in it for the people, and not just during election season, but all the time.
Okay. Latrice says, as much as I hate to quote an infamous hip hop impresario, vote or die, the stakes are that high and it's that serious.
Yeah.
Amen, Latrice. Okay, so this question is going to be a round robin for each of you guys, and for each of you. With this very large mobilization activating thousands of chapters across the country, have any of you felt that you would like to do more programming with your D9 family members? Barry, you first.
Yeah.
I think we should continue. There's always a need for momentum, right? So I think the challenge for us, like the mayor said, is really, I think we have to look at sustainability, right? Because elections they don't stop for this year, right? And so I think we need to continue to understand what the urgency looks like. Our communities are changing, people are changing, policies are changing. And so it's not a lot of work to continue to be vigilant. And so I would just lift up, we are doing what we're doing at the pace that we need to be doing it. I think everyone, each org, thinks about what their capacity is and how they can deliver. And if they can't, then it is incumbent upon them to collaborate, right? Because we have some orgs who are already engaged with larger institutions. So I think if we can just be intentional about this relationship and doing this work and continue to move swiftly, that I think it's a good pace.
Rodney, what say you?
So I restate the whole question so I make sure I answer all of it.
With this very large mobilization activating thousands of chapters across the country of our organizations, what are your feelings about would you like to do more programming together collaboratively?
Okay. So I'm glad that we are getting the push to collaborate more. I've been trying to do that locally for years as well, because even though we're better together, right? We'll take the current slogan, right? So, but I've always felt that we're all one people and we're all kind of going the same role. So, how I would see it is, in your area, instead of two groups going to the same neighborhood, in some other neighborhood get neglected, you talk about it and you divide and conquer your whole area as a collective. That's what I would like to see. That's my goal.
Okay.
So you don't have to, you don't have to program together, but you have to program in concert with each other.
In concert.
That's what I would like to see.
Okay. So, Barbara, your thoughts on that?
Right. And so Brother Watson, he said something that reminded me of the late great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When he talked about the fierce urgency of now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're sitting in it, like right now.
Yes.
And I just feel like, Black folks are always in the fierce urgency of now.
Yeah.
There's always something, right now it's voting, getting our people engaged and registered and
Right.
to the polls, right now it's that. But then there are other societal issues like housing affordability, jobs, education,
Yeah.
I really feel like we all could rally around. I really appreciated being able to collab with some of the D9 organizations with our recent voter engagement event in Chapel Hill at Hargraves. It was nice to have us all in one space engaged around one issue. And this is something that, that we can keep going. We're a powerful voting block. The collective is like, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have elected officials, educators. We have the gamut, we run the gamut in the Divine Nine. And so there's so much more. We do a lot individually, sure, but collectively, we can do so much more. All this energy, this knowledge, the resources. And so I hope that we can do more, post election. I look forward to it.
I love it. I saw her Fushi, all those black jobs you just listed. I love that.
Black jobs. Black jobs.
Yeah, I love that.
That's right. That's right.
That's us.
Black jobs. Absolutely. Absolutely. On the flip side of that, have any of you experienced any downsides to the experience of us collectively coming together the way we have? And if so, what can be done to improve it?
Downsides?
And honestly, no, which I expected some, but I have not seen any downsides at all. I mean, everyone is working together and working together well. I mean, I'm on different groups in Durham County, and on some groups we have Kappa Alpha Psi and Zeta Phi Beta, and other groups we have Iota Phi Beta. It just depends, but we're all kind of working in the same direction and supporting each other is great.
Okay,
like I say, let's keep it going. Keep it going.
And we do more than sorority parties. Sorority.
Right.
We do more than that, right?
Yeah.
Understand who we are. That's what I tell people. What is it that y'all do now?
Well, that's why we lift up those tenets around scholarship, education, and service, right?
Yep.
So that doesn't mean that they're mutually exclusive to fellowship, right?
Exactly.
So however they define fellowship is up to them. I would say for collaboratively, I've seen the collaboration really good. I think some of the things that we don't talk about was like, why didn't little Barry get it? Why didn't he understand? He lives right next door to me. And maybe he needs a mayor to say, look, bro, this is what's happening from this perspective, right? So we need to know where our strengths are. So you may be the one who can articulate that. We can have a great program, but it may be it need a different messenger. And that's okay, as long as the family can understand that, look, we are in this together. So if little Barry doesn't make it, little Barbara doesn't make it, we all doomed, right?
Yeah.
That's the reality. And I think, when we started thinking about, when we had the great event in Chapel Hill, if we didn't reach out to the scholars to make the impact and for the adult to understand that that's a relationship. So again, if little Rodney and little Pam fails because you decide not to do the adult thing, that's on you. But little Pam may have to say, you know what, hey, Big Barry, you know what, okay, I want to, impact change. So I think we just have to, that's the downside, is that we have to understand that the relationships with this information is really critical, and that I may not hear it from Brother Rodney. I may have to hear it from Sora or Pam.
That's
And
true.
that's okay. That's okay. We just gotta not think that just because we're all melanated that we get it. Of course, we always heard this quote, or my skin folks say my kin folks, in the sense that the relationship is different, and that's a very fluid experience, and it's okay, and just being conscious about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In the work.
Yes.
Sorry, Pam. Can I pop right after Brother Barry for once?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Station.
I just think about educating voters and voters understanding the value around voting the whole ballot, front and back,
Yes.
and
Yes.
understanding the jobs associated with the offices and how it will eventually impact your day-to-day lives.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to connect the dots for folks as at the policy level, and who does what, because I get questions all the time, from people and saying, oh, can you do this, or we want you to do that. Well, no, actually we can't do that. Government has guardrails, right? And we're governed by statutes that are made at the North Carolina General Assembly. But just educating people, and I guess that's a two-sided coin, because folks have to want to know, right? You have to want to know and to understand how it flows from the federal to the state, right here on the ground in Durham County, Orange County, Wake County, where the local electeds make those decisions that impact most your day-to-day existence.
Yep. When the funds come down from the federal to the state and then into the county, it's those local people making these decisions for you. And if you don't let your voice be heard, then you're letting other people take your advocacy. And that's just that's just not right.
Right. Yeah. And as much as we may want a certain person to win, if you don't vote that whole ballot, person doesn't have the representatives in the Senate, the House of Representatives in the Senate, it ain't nothing happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. You don't just vote for the president, people. You vote the entire ballot, the water board, the dog catcher, the county commissioner.
Let's not forget about that constitutional amendment.
Yes.
Now that constitutional amendment here in North Carolina, it sounds good, but this is one of those trick questions that you
get. Redundant. It's redundant.
Yes, it's redundant. It's already in place.
And we don't need to do it. But if we vote for it, I see what happens. Fool around and find out what's going to happen to you. Something is not going to be good for us, whatever it is. Yeah. It's like the trick question on the test. And see, this is where the education and constantly talking to our people about what's going on. We're going to get into more of that when we get into the other side of the show about policy and our personal opinion. Okay. But I want to share this video that Barry sent me for. It's targeted for the undergrads in the National Panhellenic Council, and I want to share that with you guys, with the audience. I think it's pretty great. Hold on one second. Let's share my screen, and here it is.
Oh,
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, hold
love
on.
it.
Let me get back
Young
to you.
people.
Okay, that was nice. So that's happening on
It was
October
nice.
1st, and people can register for that. And
Right.
as you could well see, everybody, all the entire Divine Nine was represented in that piece. Okay, so now we're going to segue to the out of our nonpartisan D9 conversation, and we're going to discuss policy issues and voting rights overall.
All right, let
Okay.
me change my title now.
Yeah, let's put your name there.
And I clearly stated that we were not talking on behalf of our organizations on this segment of the show.
You know, you can say whatever you want, but you know, I can't see whoever's on the other side of this camera.
This is true, Brother Rodney, but it's part of our lived experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is.
So this happened to me literally today in sorority meeting. Today I was talking with a soror who is Generation Z. I had to look up which generation she was because sometimes you get confused with millennials and Gen Z. But she's 27 years young, and she told me that some of her friends said that they were voting for Trump because she says she thinks it's because they think they're going to get another stimulus check. Like the ones we got during COVID. And I'm telling you, I am so exhausted because I've heard this over and over. So I know that this is what the person was alluded to her what he meant by this. So who wants to address this type of thinking first? Because clearly we have not done a very good job in civics class, or maybe people skip civics class, or they don't know civics, they don't know anything. What y'all?
Hey,
Okay, so I'll take the first stab at it.
Okay.
She heard this from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I thought she said.
No, I'm just saying. I hear this too. I was having a conversation with someone in Carborough on this similar subject when we were canvassing. Yeah. And they were talking about the stimulus check, and you know, they don't understand that was a specific action for the pandemic, and that Congress gave the president the ability to do that. He can't do that on his own.
Right.
So if Congress doesn't agree, it's not going to happen. So, and I've seen it in our chat that little bit of civics is missing. And somehow, if the Divine Nine can help educate on the civics, it might quell some of this in the long run, right? I don't know if we can do much in the short run, but you know, I heard from the same person that she wasn't voting for Harris because she heard she was demonic. Yeah.
Woo, boy.
So I think
let me go on mute.
Part of our challenge is, family, is that some of the narrative we're not going to lift up, right? We're not going to repeat certain narratives that just doesn't make sense. We can still address the fact, for me as a social worker, what I'm thinking, if I'm in Carborough and I'm unemployed, I'm having housing challenges, that what I'm hearing from the family is that this distress. Where does the hope come through your message, Mayor, about voting? Like, how does it help me to pay a bill, to go to school, to do things that everyone should have the ability to do? So what I'm hearing is that our community is so impacted by just the living, just regular living through life.
Right.
And we're trying to say, look, this matters on a macro level. On a micro level, Little Barry is suffering. How do I get to that next step? And how do I feel empowered to do this and make the right decision based on this past experience, that, you know what, I was able to buy a loaf of bread. Now, I may not have done all the right thing during COVID with what Brother Rodney gave to me, but I do have that as an experience that, oh, well, shoot, I can now buy 2 loaves. Now, that may not, I may be way off. However, for me, if we know that there's some distressed communities, which are marginalized,
Of course.
melanated communities, people are suffering differently. And so we want them to see, we're trying to make the connection and draw the dots to say, well, look, this person that's standing for this has no invested interest. No invested interest in your life, your livelihood.
None, because they want to cut, they don't want FEMA, they don't want food stamps, your SNAP benefits, all of these things that you get on the regular. That stimulus check was a once in 100-year thing, period.
It was a hopeful, it was something that was inserted into a community that was just, and again, this is just my kind of like looking at the social cultural kind of nuances about these messages, right? And so how do we say to our young people, look, there are other ways in which you can increase your territory, your family, your community, the other ways, but the rationale that you're using right now is not correct. And it's complicated. So I know it's all, I just made it convoluted, but I think, you know, as I was hearing, you know, what you said, Sora Pam, and what Brother Robert said, Rodney has said, that I'm thinking, you know, I walk through the streets, we all walk through the streets, and we say, well, why, what is it that is impacting the spirit of our community and our family? And it's all the things that if you don't have your basic kinds of needs met, people are going to make other choices. It's not an out, but that's, I mean, that's what we're looking at. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, so Rodney, look here, like I said, if you don't have, if it, the real deal is that the Congress is constantly, they have tried many times, Republicans have, to cut Social Security, your affordable health care, all of the things that are the undergirding to keep people from completely slipping through the cracks, right? It took North Carolina 10 years to expand Medicaid. 10 years. And the difference the expansion of Medicaid is having on the population is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I happen to work for an organization that is directly involved with that and have the stats on it and know that it makes a difference. But how do we get it through these kids' heads? Like Kadira Smith said, many younger folks, she said, many younger folks are hooked on that. I heard many say we were richer than we are now. Just because they got that $1,200, or I can't even remember how much it was, $1,200 or whatever.
It was $1,200.
And how long did it last is what I want to know. How long did it last?
It didn't.
How long did it last?
Yeah. You know, again, I'm going to go back to education and civics, and understanding about supply and demand, price gouging, post-pandemic behavior. But you know, our country has changed since the pandemic in a lot of ways. And I'm not sure that folks are fully connecting the dots about that change, and the economy is one of them. It hurts me when I go to the grocery store. I picked up a bag of chips the other day, and I'm telling you, the chips were in the bottom quarter of the bag.
The shrink
all that air.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I think we're all feeling that pain, But I don't believe that all this can be blamed on the federal government or even one individual. You have to pour all the stuff in the bowl, right?
Mhm.
So the
Yeah.
pandemic, supply and demand, and everything else, that goes along with our economy. But I do believe that our young people, such as, someone like Kadira or others, can be the voices of reason, in their own circles, to
Right.
reach their friends,
Agreed.
with the truth of the matter. And you have to play the tape all the way out. You just can't be worried about a stimulus check can be gone in a day or so. You just can't be worried about that. You got to play it all the way out long term. And I vote for people that care about people, right? That have
Right.
some knowledge about politics and policy and how to
Mhm.
make policies, kind of work for people and not get rid of the things that people need, like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, you really got to look at the larger picture instead of pigeonhole on an economic, stimulus thing that is not going to come again. I'm just telling you, it just won't happen.
Now,
So,
I want
Kadira, let them know that, honey. It ain't happening.
mm-mm.
who's
Yeah.
who's Stencil here one? Stencil here one just put something in the chat.
Yeah, the D9 can use
Okay.
their connections to inform the politicians of what the people need.
I want to talk about. I don't know if this comment showing backwards, right? The
Uh-huh.
D9 Legislative Day.
Mm-hmm.
To talk to that.
Oh yes, yes.
All right. So to that specific point, we are, as a collective, trying to get our politicians to understand what the people are saying. Not just locally, but we had a D9 Legislative Day nationally this year. So we are trying to let them understand what we hear. The problem I see as Rodney, as individual, is we get to the melanated politicians, and the melanated politicians make up 1%.
1%, yeah. Yeah.
So the other 99%, how are we getting to them, right? And that's like with this whole Medicare and Medicaid thing that just happened after COVID and the pandemic. A lot of North Carolina was struggling, including people who aren't melanated, and that's what got resonated up, and they decided, oh, this is a good thing. So it's going to take, in my opinion, the D9 to also have the courage to reach outside of ourselves into other communities to let that community know what our community is feeling. Because that, as the leaders, we have to step forward and do that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think that's atypical. We're always talking about reaching across the aisle. Like, we need to normalize this thing. Full disclosure, my brother married a white woman, and the reality is that they're white. I have a biracial nephew who looks blonde hair and blue eyes, and his constituents are just as important as the little berries. And so we've done that. I want to say when we think that it's when we not normalize the fact that we've been doing this work in a way that has been hard for over centuries, right? Over decades. And we've always we always understood that there are other communities, other people who support. We practice humanity. That is not something that has to be told by another person and to say, reach over and, get the hand and understand that there is a relationship. We have to continue to do that. And again, the word for me is intentional. Be intentional about why we want to do that, right? To get this work done, because everyone is suffering. And, Brother Rodney, you talk about melanated people. Again, I just use my example. Like, you wouldn't know, but my nephew don't look like me. He's part of my community and my family. And so if I, again, don't understand the relationship in doing this work, it's really hard. I do want to go just real quickly when Sora Barber talked about civic. We have the NAACP 5 game changers, which is civic engagement. right? We have to hold, what I would say is that we have to hold our indigenous institutions accountable. So all this work, not that they're not doing it, however, but we're talking about civic engagement. We got an NAACP chapter in every county, every city, then they should be doing the work. We should be trying to figure out what civic engagement looks like. That's part of their game changers. They're in the schools. They're connected to the churches as well as we are. So I think there are, again, opportunities for us to say, look, we got to step up the game. Look, politicians who are sitting in the seats, we're going to hold you accountable. Just like you hold us accountable, this is a two-way street. That's just
This comment right here from Info Earth, part of the electorate may be unreachable. We have to admit that.
Oh yeah.
And he said, she says, I heard on Don Lemon from a polling expert that likability is very important. Kamala is recently polling at 61% to Trump's 38%. So if they see her, they like. You know what? I hope you. The other problem in the room for Kamala is the fact that she is a Black woman.
Oh yeah.
I had a guy tell me, he said, yeah, she's really great and stuff. But he said to me, he said, you know, a lot of men just don't want to have a woman in charge. Well, your mama was in charge of everything. And you were okay. You know, so think of it that way. Don't think of, I don't know. We got to get over ourselves because the alternative is just.
Sorry, Pam. I'm gonna go to something somebody put in the chat. Didn't somebody put in about life or death? We have to start looking at this a way that if it goes one way, it'll be better than going the other way, because it will become life or death for some people and some people that you love too.
Yeah, absolutely, positively. Get rid of the Affordable Health Care Act and
oh Lord,
get rid of, decrease the SNAP benefits amount, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, it got decreased as it was last February because the COVID dollars ran out.
Right.
Okay. And it was a shock to many people, and we had to communicate it's coming. It's going to happen. So, you know, try to hold on to some of your benefits. Don't just buy up everything. I mean, literally, I was communicating messaging like that. So, you know, we had this huge infusion of cash and resources when COVID was around. And then it slowly went away. And meanwhile, the corporations, the food companies, and a whole lot of companies got filthy rich. They have it on record that Kroger was overcharging and stuff. We only heard about them. And then they said, well, we'll stop doing it if you allow us to merge with somebody. I mean, just all kinds of crazy corporate greed things.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, but corporate greed is why corporations exist. They have stakeholders.
Do you think it's worse post-COVID? Do you think it's worse now, or do you think it's just more noticeable now? What do you think?
I don't think it's worse. I've been in corporate life my whole life, and it just seems the same to me.
Okay.
It's always been whatever you can do to shift your dollars to your shareholders and your customers and get that bigger line.
It is more always been now for some reason.
It's probably been maybe more noticeable. Maybe more people are paying attention to it. Not that it's more noticeable, but maybe there are things people are talking about it more, and it's being reported on more. But you know, you remember when we talked about the huge salaries of CEOs like 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they haven't gone down. They still increase.
Their salaries can support a nation. I mean,
but don't be mad at the player. You got to change the game. They are playing the game just like everybody else. I mean, because you know, we have some very successful Black companies who play that same game, and they play it well. That's how they get their profit margins. So that's a little different than the civics and the education kind of thing. That's a different part of the comment. That's a whole nother conversation. I have a question for everyone, because this is, like I said, this is Rodney speaking.
Okay.
And I hope I'm in a safe space. If y'all come for me
Let's do
online,
it.
then
You
Let's do it, Rodney.
you in a
so-
safe space.
when we talk about education,
Mhm.
in the past, we've always focused on going to college.
Yeah.
And I went to college. You know, I got a great education, got a great career. But college is not reachable nor affordable for all of us.
That's right.
But there are tons and tons of trades and different types of jobs we can make high five, low $6 figures.
Yeah.
Like, you know, construction and welding and all. I think I would love to have us say go to college, or instead of, you know, take that one thing and just kind of say there's more ways to take care of yourself and support yourself than trying to pay $80,000 a year to go to college and possibly get a job or not. Right. Just, I think for the generations that's coming, we may need to shift that tone a little bit. That's my opinion. I want to see what y'all think.
I agree, because you know Josh Stein, who is running for governor right now, he has a whole ad that says you should not have to go to college. Good living. And I said, look at God's glory. He's talking about people going to community college, getting trades, learning AI, learning coding, doing all kinds of things that don't necessarily take you down a 4-year track. Nothing wrong with any of it, but let's expand our minds and look at various things that we can do, because it isn't for everybody. It isn't.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we do have the progressive 4 here. And so I know we don't subscribe to either or, it's and that education is a continuum, right? And so if I want to go to a trade school, a 2-year school, and 4-year school, however, the message around education we need to own. The fact that we were dealing with the ban on books, and we were expecting for the government to say, oh, well, little Pam, you can't, Pam, you can't teach little Barry about Jackie Robinson.
Oh, right.
Why would we allow that to happen when we have indigenous institutions that can teach little Barry, little Pam, little Rodney, little Barbara whenever they want to, right? So for me, it's the message. We've never said, there is always an option. I grew up in the South, either you work or go to school. Now, school was not defined as going to college. The idea of Black people wanting, that generation to go to college is because we knew that education was important.
Right.
However, they also said, I want you to get a skill. I want you to get a trade. They did. Our parents, our community has never said either or. It's and. How do we do it? Their institute, I'm saying, Brother Rodney, that we've kind of bought into the fact, and again, when other people say, hey, I'm making all this accessible, we were doing that historically. We were finding our way and making good choices about what we needed to do to live a better life, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying somehow we kind of dropped the ball on the message.
Okay.
Look, how do we continue to create pathways of education and careers for our scholars? The fact is, I'll bring up the D9. We all have rites of passage programs. We have the Sigma Beta Club. They have the Capital League. The Soros have theirs, right? There should have been no discussion about a book ban, right? We have everything in our power to execute what we want to see for our future, for our community, and for our family. And I think we have to approach it differently and change the framework in which we look at these items that we're talking about. However, I get somewhat frustrated when we think it's an either or. It's and all this can happen. It's
Mhm.
how we do it differently and who's going to do it.
Barbara,
Mhm.
your as an elected official, I always think that your vision might be a little bit different because you're in government and what have you in the inside of things. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, so I was glad you brought up about Josh Stein, candidate for North Carolina governor, and that commercial because it just shocked me. You know, my head did like a 360. You know, and I was like, "What did he say?"
What
That's
in,
actually, advocating, for, like community college, trades and all that. But I think we all learned very clearly during COVID how important trades are as we look for carpenters,
Yes. All those
electricians,
first responders.
all the people, bus drivers,
Yeah,
everything.
all those.
grocery store
COVID,
people?
So,
Mhm.
I do think there need to be different pathways to education and ultimately success. Now, I know when I was getting out of high school and getting close to graduating and all that, my parents were just like college, college, college. I mean,
Mhm,
that's all they were saying, and basically 4-year college, right?
mhm.
So this was the mid '80s.
Right.
So I did, I went and I got my degree, and all that, and I have a great career in laboratory sciences, which I love. But as we said earlier, college is not for everyone. And then
Mhm.
that's a part of meeting people where they are as far as like what they
Right.
may want to do instead of pushing people into college only for them to come back home. Then they feel like they failed, they feel
Right.
unsuccessful,
Right.
when all the options weren't laid out in front of them as they got ready to finish high school. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm kind of thinking about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I got one last question for you guys, a round robin.
Yeah.
So, too many people think that their vote really doesn't matter
Mhm.
because a lot of young people think, I don't see anything happening. It hasn't happened fast enough. And what they don't
Mhm.
understand is that the voting process, the electorate, the whole thing all works together and it is a process. If you only vote for the president and the vice president, for the president, and
Yes.
don't vote your entire ballot and look at all of your local elections, all of your statewide elections, the whole shebang, all of it works together. The president can only get stuff done if the Congress helps pass the bills, right? It
Right.
can't happen. Everything has to work in concert. And again, it's civics, it's basic civics. But so with that said, what
Mhm.
say you, Sora Fushi, when somebody tells you that their vote doesn't matter?
Whew.
Mm.
I better hope I don't spin around and walk off.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? I go back to what Brother Barry was saying earlier about the shoulders that we all stand on,
Right.
Yes.
to even be able to be in the positions we're in, not just as elected officials, but, in our respective careers,
Yes.
Yes.
being that
Yes.
social worker or that IT guru, engineer.
Mhm.
Folks marched, bled, and died
Yeah.
for us to be able to fly and to be able to soar.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that keeps me very motivated. But when someone would say that to me in this particular election, it has been said time and time again how tight is polling. It probably will be tight on election day. Every vote will count. Sally and Jane cannot afford to stay
No.
home and expect me to go vote and then that'll be enough. It will not be enough. We need every single vote. Remember 2020 when people were standing in line and had chairs sitting,
Yes.
waiting to get
Yes.
in to vote?
Mhm.
Lord.
This is the kind of time that we're living in now. But just trying to answer any questions that they may have, provide clarification, and try to motivate them to go vote, and also why it is so important. So I
Mhm.
just trying to meet them where they are, right? So you got to know your audience, and
Yeah.
and know what kind of conversation will reach them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
What Latrice Davis wrote here, this is beautiful. Her deceased dad would often say, only in the dictionary does overnight come before success. And only in the dictionary does success come before work. Amen.
I love that.
Man,
Yeah,
I love that, Latrice.
10,000 hours to become an expert in anything.
Yes.
That's work.
Yeah.
Okay.
What say you, Rodney, on that about if somebody came to you and said your vote?
I've had this conversation quite a few times. I had to have it with my son at one point. And it's more civics, right? We talk about the electoral college, but in most states, it's an all or nothing. Some split, but in most it's an all or nothing. And your all or nothing is a general election. It's a general count. So every vote that goes for the candidate that lines up with your views will change the electoral college for that state. So if you don't vote, and then one, you're not being heard, and two, you could be that one vote that didn't vote for the person that you align with.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, all these electoral college votes go for the other person.
Right.
And he said, oh, I didn't know that's how it worked. I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. And that's why your vote matters. And I had the same conversation with the same lady in Carborough. Well, I sat and talked to her about 15 minutes. So she didn't understand the process. So once again, education on civics, right? That's something we have to get back to the basics.
Yeah, back to the basics. Back to the basics. Latrice, I'm just a bill.
I'm just a
yes,
bill.
exactly.
On Capitol Hill.
That's right.
Yes, I remember that.
Schoolhouse Rock. Schoolhouse
Rock.
Yes. Yeah. I showed that to my granddaughter.
Yeah. We've actually
you need to see this.
Yeah, we've used that as well. Brought that back, and again with the NAACP Youth Council, we did it for civic engagement. And just to your question, I think I just continue to say, how can I be available for information for you? Or what don't you understand, right? And sometimes it's just like, well, look, let's have coffee or tea, or look, I'll go with you to the polls. Just me and you will go together. Or look, here's a ballot, which I have an absentee ballot, and actually walking them through. And then, of course, my passion is saying the reason why you're doing this because I care about you. I want you to survive. I want us to survive. But first, I think we acknowledge them. And part of again, as a social worker, it's like if you've not ever felt valued in the community, if you've not ever shook the hands of a mayor ever and had the conversation, and we know some of our scholars haven't even gone to UNC and live right there in the community. They're 3 blocks away. However, it again, for me, it's the relationship. Like, why is this important? What's the value of this? And so I want to tell you that you're valuable. And this is the reason why. It's a lot of work. And I know all of us can't do it. We have to do it differently. I just happen, as a social worker, to be able to continue to talk and, love people. And for our melanated communities, we have to love them hard because they had to love me hard. The only reason why I'm here is because someone loved me hard and kept on saying, look, you got to do it. And then the other thing I would just say respectfully, sometimes they were like, well, little Barry, we don't need to hear from you. We just need you to do.
Oh,
okay. We're not explaining. We're not explaining anything. Because we also have some wisdom that we want to say, look, don't you worry about it right now, but I need you to go vote. I just need you to do this. We'll fit, So part of that is faith, right? And understanding our connection with faith and the power of the energy and the work that we do and what we put out there in the community.
I want to tell the audience is for you all to please, if you like this video, if you like this conversation, you think it's been of value, please share it. That is the one reason why I do this show, educational purposes, so that you know, people will take this kind of thing and they can just listen to it and think, oh, that's a different perspective. I hadn't thought of that. A lot of people do not consume news 24/7 like I do. I read it, write it, and digest it all day. And so for those who aren't like me, and there's many who are not, this is an opportunity where you get regular folk and folk that may not be so regular that you see every day talking about issues that matter to you. So share the video, share, especially now, share please, so that people can get, we got to be thinking. We got to think. We got to think, critically think, right? Guys, it's 9:01. I have enjoyed you all
Great.
tremendously. This has been a great, great conversation, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I appreciate the listening audience. You guys chimed in just like I knew you would. I appreciate you all so much.
Thank
Hit
you.
the thumbs up on this video wherever you're watching from, whether it's Facebook. If it's on YouTube, please subscribe. Please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button, so that the algorithm, everything's the algorithm, okay? Everything. So
I know a lot about algorithms.
I know you do. It's,
Yeah, Rodney does. For sure.
Boy.
YouTube is a beast. It is a beast. So I really, really appreciate you guys for paying attention, being involved, being active, and for sharing the information. We're going to wave off. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.